So anyway, so we're really following probably 20 or 25 bills. There's about 4,000 of them that were originally introduced. So I'm just going to go over a few of the uh, really important ones we're following. So the first one is Senate Bill 951. So Oregon already has a ban on corporate practice of medicine. You probably don't want insurance companies, doing operations on you. You want doctors doing it, but you also don't want insurance companies telling doctors, what procedures to do and how to do them. So there's a ban. There's actually an old ban on that. It's called corporate practice of medicine. But as with everything else, private equity firms are taking over businesses, insurers take over, and they find a way to control clinical practices and kind of elude the ban. So this bill, Senate Bill 951, kind of prevents corporations from doing that. And it also does things like, remember we talked about physicians aren't allowed to speak out. That's called a non-disparagement clause that these corporations put in their contracts with doctors. There's also non-compete clauses, like when Optum bought the Eugene practice, there was a non-compete clause. So all those physicians that left Oregon Medical Group in Eugene were not allowed to practice in the area because of these clauses. So anyway, so this bill would go ahead and like ban these clauses that prevent people from being able to access care and for their doctors to be able to speak out. And it also means that a corporation can't own more than 49% of any clinical practice. So they can't own like a majority ownership. They can still invest, they just can't be a majority owner. So anyway, this is a really important bill. It passed the Senate 22-7. And if you're not aware, there's 18 Democratic senators and 12 Republican. So it actually got bipartisan support, which is great. 4 Republican senators supported it. So it passed the Senate. Now it needs to pass the House. So currently it's in the House what's called Behavioral Health and Healthcare Committee. And there'll be a public hearing scheduled for actually tomorrow at 3 o'clock. So Linda's going to follow up and talk about how you'd actually help advocate for these things. So, but it's not too late. You can, if you want, you could submit written testimony and even up to 2 days after the hearing. So that's a really important bill. So one of the 2 most important bills is a Senate Bill 951. Another really important one is House Bill 3212. And we had it at our advocate meeting before. We had somebody from the Department of Consumer and Business Services talk about pharmacy benefit managers. Remember that talk that had everybody's probably googly-eyed trying to understand how pharmacy benefit managers works? Well, one way they work is part of their contracting makes pharmacies operate at a loss because they're actually not paid enough for what it costs to dispense prescriptions. So this House Bill 3212 is a way to address that. It actually, makes sure that pharmacies don't have to operate at a loss, which is why we lost 34 pharmacies, independent pharmacies in Oregon last year. And it's just going to continue. Remember, we had Tom from Rice's Pharmacy talk about it when he was at our meeting. So this is a really important bill to save our pharmacies. It had a public hearing where people can give testimony, and then a work session where the public can't participate, but it's still a public meeting, and you can hear what the legislators are doing. So it had a public hearing and work session in the House Healthcare. I just want to let everybody know there was a similar bill that passed in 2024, and it actually had wide bipartisan support. So I mention this because these are things that it's not just Democrat or Republican. It's like, there really is some common cause as far as like things like saving independent pharmacies, and not selling everything out to like real estate investment trusts. I mean, there is some bipartisan support of that. So we're hopeful this bill will pass. There's no public hearing currently. It's in the House Rules Committee, but we're hoping that it will come out of rules probably with an amendment, and then we'll be asking people to advocate for it. And Linda's going to talk in a couple of minutes about how you can help do that. I always like saying good news. So here's some good news. So Senate Bill 957 is another thing we're following. Now, remember, I mentioned 951. Part of 951 is to ban non-compete clauses, where if you leave a physician leaves a practice, they can still practice in that same area. So this bill specifically just bans non-compete clauses. So if 951 passes, it would actually do the same thing. So, but this is a bill that, let's say for some reason, God forbid, 951 doesn't pass. At least if this bill passes, we can address the non-compete clauses in healthcare professionals' contract. So it passed the Senate 22-4. So that gives you some idea that of the support of that. I mean, it only had 4 votes against, so it had a lot of bipartisan support. So, I mean, I love being able to talk about stuff like this that shows, you know, it crosses party lines, and there's, you know, quite a bit of effort behind it. It's currently in the House Healthcare Committee, and it's scheduled for hearing on May 1st at 3 o'clock, if anybody's interested in tuning in or even submitting testimony for it. So there's another bill going back to, remember the presentation at the advocates meeting about the PSAOs, or Pharmacy Services Administrative Organizations. This was just another middleman so that PBMs, the pharmacy benefit managers, can kind of skirt regulations about contracting directly with, saying they're not contracting with pharmacies, they're contracting with PSAOs. So it's just another corporate game that they play. So this House bill would make sure that the PBMs can't do that. And check this out, it passed the House 55-0. You know, I ask you, how many things unanimously support, you know, are passed in the House? I mean, hardly anything. So I just want people to take heart that, like, there are some issues, like, you know, you talk about PBMs or pharmacy stuff, it's like everybody wants to see fairness in that, and reduction, hopefully reduction in costs down the road. So it passed the House unanimously, and it's currently in the Senate Healthcare Committee, and a public hearing will be scheduled for May 1st at 3 o'clock in that Senate Healthcare Committee. But, you know, I feel pretty good about it. If the House unanimously passes it, that the Senate is gonna pass it by a pretty healthy margin too. So, and then I guess one last bill I'll talk about is HB 3134. Some of you might be interested in this. So what it would do is actually exempt some healthcare providers from needing to get a prior authorization for some situations, as in procedures. So you know, that's one of the biggest one. You know, when we looked at abuse of, say, you know, Medicare, like, say, insurance companies and Medicare Advantage specifically, that's one thing that's how they abuse the system, is require prior authorization and do denials. So anyway, this House bill would at least address that partially. It would require insurers, you know, to exempt some providers for that. So it was referred to rules from the Senate Healthcare Committee, and it's currently in Senate rules. So it had a public hearing, so you've kind of lost temporarily the ability to submit, you know, say, a written testimony for it. But it's scheduled for a work session on the 30th, so that would be on Wednesday. And I think I'll just let Linda, am I about 7 minutes now?
Oh, you're about 11 minutes.
Oh, gosh, okay. Well, I'm just going to summarize to say, you know, the 951 and 3212 are the priority bills. There's a couple bills that would still address corporate practice of medicine, but if that SB 951 passes, it will basically incorporate that. And we're not going to get into budgeting and issues, but that's going to be an issue as things goes on with what's happening at the federal level, and the absolute chaos will impact state revenues. So as these bills go through, I just want to say support is really vital. So you email representatives, call their offices, and you can submit written or oral testimony at these public hearings. And Linda's going to show you exactly how to do that now. Right, Linda?
That's right. That's my job. Thanks, Alex. Okay. Unless there are any questions for Alex, I think I'll go ahead and I'm going to also share my screen because what I want to show you is how you can get involved in helping us let our representatives know, let our legislators know what we think about these pending bills and things. So can everybody see my Google screen there?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay. So I'm going to start with something really simple that everybody can remember. You can write these four letters down if you want to. It's OLIS, and OLIS is the Oregon Legislative Information System. And that's where we get all the information about these bills that Alex was talking about, where you can follow along and see what's happening with a particular bill that you're interested in. And you can submit testimony about that bill. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to have an opinion and a rationale for why you think something is a good idea or a bad idea. And really personal stories really make a difference when you're talking to these folks. So if you just type in OLIS, and you can type it in your search engine or in your address bar, and the first thing that pops up should be the Oregon Legislative Information System. It's a .gov website, so it's a safe website to go to. And I've made my, I've expanded my screen a little bit so you won't see the whole thing, but this is the kind of home page for the 2025 regular session, which is what we're in right now. So there's some things you can do from there, but what I want to do right now, because 951 is actually, as Alex pointed out, in a hearing tomorrow, there's action you can take right now. So I'm going to go here to the section on bills and just click that. And that'll give me a drop-down box. And so there's a couple different ways you can find these bills. The easiest way is just to type in like SB 951 right into this search. And if I click go, it'll take me straight there. Another way is it's a SB, so it's a Senate bill. You can look at the whole list of Senate bills. And remember, Alex mentioned it started out with over 4,000 things had been introduced in this legislative session. So there's a lot going on there. But if you can also find it this way. And we talked about 951, but we also talked about 957. Which one was it? Well, if you hover over the 951, it tells you that that's about prohibiting a management services organization from owning or controlling shares in or directing the management of a professional medical entity. So that's what we were talking about, the corporate practice of medicine there. If you look at 957, that's the one that voids non-competition agreements between a licensed healthcare provider and another person with some specific. So I can click right on that. And that brings me to the bill. And you can get a lot of information, really all the information that is out there about a bill that's been introduced in the legislature right here. what I want to really make sure we focus on today is submitting testimony. So you can see, even though this is a Senate bill, if I scroll down here, it's the current committee is the House Committee on Behavioral Health and Healthcare. So it's already passed the Senate and it's in the House now. And if I look at scheduled events, here's that public hearing that Alex was talking about. So at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, there's going to be a public hearing. And so you can register to testify, meaning you can be there in person in Salem, or you can be on online and you can testify online, or you can send in written testimony. Bruce, did you have a question? Oh, you're on mute, Bruce.
Not a question, but if you click on testimony, people will be able to see what people have written into, and I'm curious to see if my letter from today is listed.
Okay. Well, we'll do that next. I want to show people how easy it is to submit testimony, but that's a good good direction. We'll do that in just a moment. So all you have to do if you want to submit testimony, and I know it might sound intimidating, I don't want to submit testimony, but it's really just your experience, what you've experienced through maybe something that has happened in your world, or maybe it's based on your profession, or maybe it's based on belonging to an organization. But when you clicked on that, you see it fills all this in for you. So it already tells you what committee it's in, the meeting date, that you're submitting testimony for this particular bill. You have to fill in your first name and last name and your email address. You have to put in either your organization or city of residence. So that's mostly just so they know you are an Oregon voter. And then you can put on behalf of, if that's appropriate. So if you're writing on behalf of a group of people, and then you select your position on the measure. So in this case, we want to support the measure. Click on your text testimony, and then you just type. And you can put whatever, like I said, is here. You can talk about how the takeover of the Corvallis Clinic affected you personally, or your family, or somebody you know, or the Eugene, what happened with the Oregon Medical Group in Eugene. You can talk about why you think health insurance companies shouldn't be telling doctors how to practice medicine. So those are the types of things you would type in there, and then you would just submit that test. The other thing I sometimes do is if I want to write something a little more thoughtful or longer, I'll actually write it in a Word document, and then I just copy and paste it into this. So that's how easy it is to submit testimony. It doesn't have to be really long, doesn't have to be let's see, let's go back to there. So it does open a new window in your browser when you do that. So I can go back to the bill, and now as Bruce was pointing out, there's this link to testimony here. And this is the testimony that's already been submitted for this public hearing. So it says show 100 entries. I wonder how many there are. I kind of want to shrink this now just to see.
There was over 200.
Yeah, so there's a lot of support. You can sort it by the position. So here's some neutral testimony. Here's some testimony in opposition. And it's interesting sometimes to read the opposition so that you know who's saying no and why they're saying no, why they're saying they oppose it. And then here's where the support starts. So look at that, Mark Weiss. Oh, there's some from Mike Huntington. Might recognize some names there. Alex, Karen Christensen. There you are, Bruce. Now this has a date of March 4th. Oh, this is showing all of the, okay.
Yeah,
So this,
that's for the
yeah.
Senate hearing. So if you go further down, you'll see the new testimony for the House hearing, which is what I think what Bruce was.
Oh, yeah. So it's way, okay. So let's do this. We can actually sort it by date.
Yeah, I saw Bruce was on there too for today.
We can, nope. Let it, oh, maybe we can't sort it by date. By committee. Okay, I got to shrink this a little bit. Bear with me for just a moment so I can see everything. So yeah, here's the House committee. So here they are. Here's the ones for tomorrow. So you can read any of these documents. You can kind of see how other people are wording them, and what they're saying about it. Did you see yours there, Bruce?
I saw it. It's there.
Right there.
Yeah, it's
So any questions about how to submit testimony before I show you a few other cool things about this website? I don't see any raised hands, so I will go back here. You can also register to testify in person. And that asks you to put in your name, whether you're going to be online or in person when you testify, and what your position on the measure is. And then you just register to testify. Keep in mind that they do often or usually limit the amount of time you have in your testimony. So I recommend that if you are going to ask to testify, to actually do public testimony, that you also send in something in writing so that they have that. Because you might be limited to, say, 2 minutes or less. They have a lot of people registered. Tells you who the sponsors were of the bill to begin with. Has the description of the bill, and you can make that a little bit bigger if you want to. Where it is right now, which is in the House Committee on Behavioral Health and Healthcare. You can look at the history of the measure. So this tells you that, so it started in the Senate. January 28th was the first reading in the Senate. There was a public hearing held on March 4th. There was a work session held on the 25th. During the work session, this is just in the committee. So these are committee members. Here are the committee members who voted for and against it. And then you can see when it moved from the Senate, when it was carried in the Senate and moved to the House and referred to the House Behavioral Health and Healthcare Committee, and then the public hearing scheduled. Now I can go to this public hearing scheduled here. And that's going to show you the agenda for that meeting. Now, they don't always do it in the order that it shows. So do be aware if you're interested in listening in, even if you're not going to testify, if you're interested in listening in, it might be the first thing on the docket. It might be the last thing on the docket, or they might change that up a little bit. So I recommend you log in right at 3:00. Now, if you miss the meeting, if you're not able to actually listen in at the time, there will be a recording of the meeting that'll be posted. It won't go up right away, but it will eventually, and you can go back and listen to the recordings of the other meetings. So if I click on the last meeting here about this, I can actually listen in on that meeting and hear who had what to say about that bill.
Probably need to wrap it up just pretty soon.
Okay. You can also see the members of the committee here. So if you want to directly contact the members of the committee, you can do that and let them know what you think about that bill, ask them to support it. And again, lots of different ways to get to that submit testimony. Mike, did you have a question or a comment?
Just a comment that because the time limit is usually strictly 2 minutes, that it's a good idea to practice your statement and time it. In general, you can estimate about 125 words per minute. So you try to get it in with 250 words.
Thanks, Mike. That's a good suggestion. One more quick thing, and then I'll give up the podium here. You can subscribe to an individual bill. So in this case, I'm looking at oh no, I want to go back one more, I think. Yeah, so here's SB 951. You can subscribe to that and put your email address in, and then you will get updates whenever something, so you don't have to go out and look all the time. So you'll get an email like this that says something has happened. In this case, a public hearing was scheduled, and you can click right on that and it'll take you right to that bill. So if you want to follow 951, go out there, hit that e-subscribe, and then you don't have to go find it again. You'll just get a notification in your email. That's all I've got for this evening.
Okay. Thank you so much. That was really helpful, you guys. Any last questions for Alex or Linda? Okay. We're sort of coming to the end of our time, but let's have some other short committee and or officer reports. Fritz, I see you're still on. Anything you want to say from communications and outreach?
Lots I'd like to say, but I'll keep it very short and focus on the date of May 31st. May 31st is the National Day of Action for Single Payer Healthcare. We have had one planning meeting with the younger group. I see Amanda's on, and boy, talk about a dynamic group of people, young adults, and it's just spectacular. So looking like what's going to happen is we are going to start the event at noon down at the Benton County Courthouse. We are gathering speakers. The OSU students are going to be gathering at the MU on campus at noon and then marching down to join us at the courthouse. We've started some connection with other organizations, and Dr. Kim knows. I've emailed her and some of the others with Benton County Indivisible. I'm also out here in Sweet Home, a member of East Lynn Indivisible. We had our monthly meeting last night, and I shared that information with them. We'll also probably be getting some new people signed up via the website for getting on our email list and everything as well. So watch for more information, but put it on your calendars. May 31st, it'll be noon to 3 o'clock at the Benton County Courthouse. One of the last thing I do want to say is these last two protest events or demonstrations or whatever you want to call them, the April 5th and the April 19th, we actually, between the two of those, had almost 80 people sign up. which is significant compared to what we were getting like at the farmer's market or anything like that. They've already been forwarded to Healthcare for All Oregon for entry into the database, and Simon's getting them in our Google group. And shortly, board members, I'll be dividing up, as we talked about at our board meeting last week. I'll be sending you a list of people for you to contact to do the initial contact and act as a mentor for these new members. So exciting stuff. We'll also get them involved in the new member orientation. So sorry, longer than I should have taken, but big deal.
Oh, it's important. And yeah, just major success getting people signed up. Very much looking forward to the May 31st. I hope we can all show up for that rally. Let's see here. Kathy, you're the chair of finance. Finance is the only committee that hasn't reported in yet.
Well, I can be pretty quick. Twice a year in the spring and the fall, we send out a fundraising letter, and the spring fundraising letter just went out within the last week to recent donors, like people within the last couple of years. If you did not receive one, you can still, of course, donate if you would like to. If you go to the Mid-Valley Healthcare Advocates homepage, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a rectangular button that just says donate. So you can do that anytime. You do not have to wait for a letter or invitation. And we truly appreciate any donations that we ever receive, because we know you don't have to do that. So thank you in advance. It helps us a lot.
All right. We'll do officer reports. Karen, do you have anything you want to report on?
Our donation letter came out this week, and so our May financial report will show our first spring income from the donation.
Okay. So we'll look forward to that.
Yep.
Mike, do you have anything you want to throw in it here at the end? I have one thing, but
No,
all right.
thanks.
I mentioned before wanting to put together a carpool for the June 7th trip down to Eugene for the HCAO meeting, but Shelley was supposed to come on tonight, and she's chair of the nominations committee that's active right now, and they are looking for a new secretary. Sandy needs to step away. She's got some other commitments, and she served us so well for so long, but they're having some trouble. So if anyone in this meeting would consider being our secretary, we would really like to hear from you. You can contact me. You could contact Shelley Reese, or if you know somebody that would be good at this. It's a bit of an easier job than in years gone by, because we can video meetings and you can take notes from that. And also we have AI now that can create minutes, and then all the secretary has to do is correct AI's mistakes. So it's not quite the job it used to be, being secretary of an organization. With that, I will just say thank you all so much. Love the fact that you continue to do this work.
I had one more thing.
Oh yeah.
All. Tomorrow, the National Medicare for All bill will be reintroduced by Pramila Jayapal. So it's
Yay.
a day of celebration. And I think we now have 4 of the 5 Democratic representatives signed on. We think that the 5th one, that would be Bynum, Representative Bynum, will sign on. So that's happening tomorrow. And then in June, the state-based Universal Health Care Act is going to be reintroduced. So we'll give you more updates on that later.
Yeah, that's important. Okay. Thank you all very much. And thank you for sticking with a longer than usual meeting, but some very important things. Let's please all consider testifying in writing or in person to the legislature. Pick a bill or two and do a little writing. I've done a couple of them myself, and we'll do more. Let's make some things happen in the state.